Hi, everyone.
Hi.
We're back.
Yep.
I just finished a sugar-free Red Bull.
Ooh, so you're all energized.
All fired up.
I have a, what's this ounceage? 24-ounce Miller Lite.
That's a fucking main cane.
I got a man can.
Alrighty.
Season 2, Episode 3.
Episode 3. What's the name?
What is dead may never die.
May never die.
May never die.
Welcome back, everyone. Let's get right into this
Yeah.
shit.
So we start with, of course, the last episode ends with John getting cracked over the head by Craster after seeing the baby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gets clubbed.
Yeah. So this one starts with Craster throwing John through the door of the keep.
Where everyone's sleeping.
Yeah, everyone. Yeah, so he
in his
he,
little cabin.
Yeah, he completely, wakes up. He says, this one's been meddling where he shouldn't be, and he turns to Lord Commander Mormont and says, all of you need to go,
You're all out.
and you need to make this right. And Lord Commander Mormont's like, what the fuck just happened? He tells John to go outside, and, to try to, I guess, deal with Craster.
Yeah.
So it cuts to outside where John and Sam are. Sam's like holding a cold compress to John's face.
Like it's his mom, like he's his mother.
Yeah. So as Lord Commander walks up, John like shoves
John's
him
like,
off.
"Get off me!"
Yeah, like, dude, get off. So Lord Commander comes out and he's like, what did you do? And John said, I followed him down through the woods. He put the baby in a clearing and something came and got it.
And a blue dude came
Yeah.
and got him.
And Lord Commander says, well, what business of that was yours? And John says, you don't understand. He's killing the boys. And that's when he looks at Lord Mormont.
And Mormont has a look on his face like he is not shocked.
Yeah. And it's like, oh, you already knew that. So while Lord Mormont says, wildlings serve crueler gods than you and I. These boys, they're his offerings. And John's like, he's murdering his own children. He's a monster. And Mormont says, well, that monster's been the lifer. He's been the only thing between life and death for some of us Rangers, including your Uncle Benjen. And we have other wars to fight out there. And unfortunately, we need men like Craster.
Yep.
And John says, I saw it. I saw it.
I saw it.
He said that he saw something take the child. And Lord Commander says,
Lord Commander.
he says, whatever it was, I dare say you'll see again.
Yeah.
And
A little foreshadowing there.
yeah, and he might stare you down and give you the what? What
the fuck? You might even cut one of those mofos down.
Possibly. I mean, I'm not telling you all the plot lines,
Potentially.
but potentially. Then Mormont says, he tells John to go fetch his horse. He says they're leaving at dawn, and he gives him Longclaw back, and he says, don't lose it again. So we see the Night Watch packing up. Gilly walks by Sam, and so he goes over to talk to her. She gives him a shitty look, and it's like, you're leaving. It's like, yeah, wait, that's what happens.
Yeah, you saw what happened.
Yeah.
You were there.
Yeah, he says he has something to give to her. It's a trinket that belongs to his mom. It's a sewing thimble.
Yeah.
Yeah. He said that he used to read to his mother while she would sew. And, it was just...
And then his dickhead father
Yeah.
found out about it and was like,
Nope.
no.
Yeah.
We're not having this.
Yeah, so he said that the thimble is the last thing his mother gave him before he went to the wall. And she's like, well, I can't take that. And he was like, well, I'm giving it to you, and I want you to keep it safe till I get back. Because Sam, of course, is like, I'm going to come back for you. Because he's like, oh, she's...
This is the only girl that's ever talked to him.
Yeah. She's the only girl that's ever given him a time of day that wasn't his mother or his sister. So we cut to Hodor. He's in...
Oh, I forgot how much of a sweetie his mom is.
Oh, yeah. She's such a sweetheart.
And his sister, yeah.
We cut to Winterfell. We see Hodor from a point of view of
And he's like, hi.
Yeah.
Or he
Yeah.
can't say hi, but he says
Hodor
in a very high kind
But
of way.
it's in the, you know what he's saying.
Oh, yeah.
Maester walks up behind him. He tells Hodor to go get Bran time for his lessons. We see Hodor walk off. It's a wolf, but
Yeah.
we have the point of view of the wolf. So the wolf walks behind Hodor as he goes up to Bran's room, and the whole time we have the wolf point of view.
Yeah,
and
first
then,
person.
Yeah, first person point of view. And then the door opens. We see Bran sleeping, and you see Summer as the camera jump up on the bed. And as he jumps up on the bed, when Bran wakes up, the camera
They
angle
reverse.
switches.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we're Bran looking at Summer.
Even though he just woke up from a dream, or what
Where
he
he
thought
was
is a
Summer.
dream, where he's seeing himself.
He's seeing himself. So he
Super weird.
Yeah, and so we cut to Bran telling the Maester about his dream. He said, every night it's the same. I'm walking, I'm running, but it's not me. I'm running through the Godswood. I'm smelling the dirt. I taste the blood in my mouth, and I'm howling at the moon.
The seeds
And
the dirt. I can't pay him.
I can't. He says that old Nan used to tell him stories about magical people who could live inside of animals. And the Maester says that's just what they are, stories. He's like, they're dreams, they're nothing more. And Bran says, nope, these are different. They're true dreams.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he said, Rickon and I had the same dream about our father dying. You know, how could that be? And the Maester says...
Too many coincidences going on for it to just be like, oh, it's just this or that.
Yeah. So then, of course, the Maester's like, well, what dreams haven't come true? Which is always the pessimistic look at it. Well, you know, like, oh, well...
Yeah, why are you taking,
come true?
why are you
Well, what
taking
about
this
the one that
one
doesn't?
dream so serious?
Yeah, exactly. But, of course, the Maester, he starts showing him his chains, and one of them is a Valyrian steel chain. And he says... I got this because, you know, very few maesters have it, and I got it because I've studied these arts, these magical arts. And he says, you know, there's mysteries in Valyrian and Valyrian steel, so I have some education in this department, and that all who study these mysteries try their hands at spells, but in the end, all my efforts were no different than the other people who had tried them before me. Nothing came of it. So the Maester tucks Bran away, and he says, maybe magic once was a mighty force in the world, but not anymore. Dragons are gone, giants are dead, and the children of the forest forgotten.
You are not a wizard, Arry.
You are not a wizard, Arry.
But a little foreshadowing with all the, here's all the, none of this, none of that, and definitely none of this.
Yeah, and it's like,
you're
oh, well.
definitely not going to see any of that shit.
Actively, there's all three of those things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we've seen one.
Yeah.
Or three.
Well, we've seen
one,
the dragon.
Yeah.
We've seen
three of one.
One genre. One
category.
Yeah. Species.
Yepers.
Yeah.
Love when we see the giants.
Yes.
So dope.
Yes. So we cut to tourney. They're just fighting. It's Loras and a person, which we come to know as Brienne of Tarth. And it's a tourney for Renly, King Renly, excuse me. That's when we first see Marjorie, Lady Marjorie.
Her fine ass.
Yeah, she's nice.
So fine.
Yeah.
Looks like she has that like cartoony smile face.
Yeah. She has that
she looks like Babs Bunny.
Yeah, you literally took the word out of my mouth.
I think there's some memes of them both smiling beside each other and looking the exact same.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'll look at Reddit.
Either way, she's fine.
Yeah, definitely. We see Lady Stark arrive. Marjorie's watching the battle, and the fight, and at one point she stands up and she goes, "Loras, Highgarden," and it's like, all right, calm down.
Yeah, like nothing else. Like, was that a whole comment?
Yeah. Loras, who we know is actually a decent, he's a pretty good knight, but he's beaten, and he's finally thrown on his back, and he says he yields. And Renly stands up, and he says, well fought, and he asks the person to approach, and they kneel, and he says, rise, remove your helm, and that's when we find out it's Brienne of Tarth. He says, you're all your father promised and more, my lady. And she said, that's when... Marjorie is like, well, my brother fought valiantly too, and he's like, yes, but there's only one champion. And
yes.
But, and he says, he tells Brienne, he said, whatever you want, if it's within my power, it's yours. And she says, I want a place on the Kingsguard. I want to be one of your 7. I pledge my life to you. And so he says, done.
And Loras is not like this.
No.
He's jelly. He's peanut butter and jelly.
He is so PB&J. So she rises Brienne of Tarth, Brienne of the Kingsguard, and that's when Lady Stark's like, all right, stop this shit. And she sends her dude on, and he's like, I've brought Lady Stark. She would like to speak with you. And he says that she's been sent on behalf of her son Robb Stark, Lord of Winterfell. And she says Lord of Winterfell and King of the North.
King of the North.
King of the North. And Renly, he says hello, and he presents hello, and then he presents Marjorie, his wife, and she stands and says that she's sorry for Lady Catelyn's loss, and that's when Renly says, "My lady, I swear to you, I'll see that the Lannisters answer for your husband's murder. When I take King's Landing, I'll bring you Joffrey's head." And she's like, "I think just confirmation is good enough. I don't need his head.
I don't need it."
Yeah. And so she says, I think she says, "My lord," and that's when Brienne
it's like, "Oh, you should have kneeled."
She said, "You should say, 'Your Grace,' and you shall kneel when you approach the king."
Yeah.
And it's like, hey,
and he's like,
you
"Hey,
just got this job.
Joe, you've had this job for about 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Also, I've had this king thing for a couple months or something."
Yeah. And he's like, and also the Starks are a well-known house, so
For
calm
sure.
it down.
And yeah,
And her husband's head just got chopped off.
we're talking here.
Yeah, we're conversating.
How about not?
Yeah.
She's just so fucking excited about her new job.
Yeah, it's just, yeah, exactly. So Loras is like in the background, and he's like, "What's your son planning?" And she's like, I don't sit on his war councils, and if I did, I wouldn't give you his strategies.
Yeah.
Like,
Who are you?
Who are you? And so that's when Laura says, "Well, Rob should have come himself." And she said, "I'm sorry, my son is busy fighting a war, not playing at one."
Oh.
Yeah, and that's when Renly's like,
sorry, that's a good burn.
That is, sorry. So Renly, he walks down, and as he walks past, like, "Oh, let's take a walk." He's like, "Our war's just beginning." So they walk through the camp. Brienne's behind them, and
Also, just, I guess, taking initiative is like, well, this is my
yeah.
job now. I'll follow him.
I'll just follow him. Instead of like Shay, she's like, "What am I supposed to do?" And Brienne's like, "I'm just gonna do until you say
She's
not
more
to."
of a go-getter.
Yeah. Excuse me, I didn't mean to cough directly in the mic. Catelyn says, "It's a game to you, isn't it?" And she says, "I pity all of them," talking about the knights and the men who are fighting for him. She says, "It won't last." She says, "These are the nights of summer, and winter is coming." And that's when Renly's like, Brienne, take Catelyn to her tent. She's tired."
Yeah, he's like, "I'm tired of this bitch.
Shit.
I need her to just agree with me."
Yeah, and then Brienne's like, "What, should I return to you?" And he's like, "No, I need to go pray alone, aka suck
get
face
some
with
dick."
Loras." Yeah, and so that's when Catelyn says, she talks to Brienne and tells her that she fought well, and I think she calls her Lady Brienne, and
she does.
She says, "Brienne's enough. I'm no lady."
Oh, and after that, as Brienne walks away, she like smirks because that reminds her of Arya.
Yeah, it's a very Arya.
She's like, "Oh,
I
you're
know
like
who
my
you are."
youngest.
Yeah, which is another duo that I need in my life is Brienne and Arya.
Oh, they'd be two bad bitches together. I'd like
bitches.
that.
Yeah,
I like that two-piece.
Yeah, that's a good two-piece.
Yeah, they'd be
they
fucking
probably
people
eat
up.
a lot of chickens.
Yeah,
The Hound.
they'd be getting chickens.
Yeah.
Well, like Brienne's big ass. Yeah, it's like they're like video game characters, like in an old like Sega walkthrough fighting game. Like she's the giant one that's gonna throw your ass across the screen, and then Arya's the little one that's gonna like twirl around you and stab you 100 fucking times.
Yeah.
Awesome, like some Streets of Rage shit.
Oh, yes.
Anybody?
Yeah.
I'm sure.
I'm sure there's a lot.
Sure of
also, can someone make me that video game? Because I'm not a video game person, but let's get that.
I'd probably play as. I'd definitely play as Bronn.
Play a little PlayStation too.
All right, back at it.
So we cut to Theon. He's entering like the main room and stuff. He's just kind of glancing around and whatnot, reminiscing. And Yara comes up behind him. When he finally realizes that she's there, he's like, he gets mad. Well, he's mad once he sees her because, of course, he hasn't had a chance to
address him groping her and her not saying who she is.
Yeah,
thing.
and so he calls her a lying bitch, and she says, "That's not my fault. You didn't recognize me." And he's like, "How could I? The last time I saw you, you looked like a fat little boy." And she said, "Well, you were a fat little boy, and I still recognized you."
Yep.
And he says, "Why didn't you tell me?" And she said, "Well, I wanted to see who you were first, and I did."
Definitely did.
Yeah, and that's when Balon enters. he starts talking about his plans. He says the wolf pup has gone south. While he's tangled in the western lands, the north is ripe for the taking. Winterfell may defy us for a year, but the rest will be ours.
And he kind of just says that as like a Winterfell might, whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
Really, like, I feel
just
like he's
really dismissing it.
I feel like he's kind of like does that a little on purpose just to kind of poke at.
I think so. He's trying to
at Theon.
Yeah, he's trying to invoke him.
And he's like, yeah, Winterfell will do some shit, but fuck them.
Yeah. Yeah.
You hear that, Theon? Fuck them.
Fuck the Starks. So then so he says Yara's been given 30 long ships and she's been told to take Deepwood Mott. And she's like, I always wanted a castle. And Theon gets one ship, the Sea Bitch, and he's sent to fight fishermen.
And what do you think the Sea Bitch is? Is this like a shitty ship?
It's probably the shittiest ship.
Did they make one shitty on purpose?
No, it's probably just the
so
oldest one.
they could loan it out, or is the oldest one
it
just has the
hasn't
most miles
fallen
on
apart
it?
yet. Yeah.
She's still good. She got about
She's still
580 on
good.
her. She's still putting along.
Yeah. It's like
Right, so he's got the jalopy
yeah.
of the squad.
Absolutely. Theon says that he knows Robb. He's fought with Robb. He's a proven warrior. Not true.
Not true.
And that's when Balon brings up his dead sons again. He
You
was
can definitely
like,
fuck a bird up.
yeah, you can shoot an arrow, but you are not a proven warrior.
Not so much.
Also, because you captured Jaime Lannister. Is that what you're basing all of this on?
Probably so.
You didn't do that single-handedly.
And also, you fuck like a buster.
Yeah, so there's no way you're a warrior.
Yeah, no way.
Yeah, Khal Drogo would just laugh at the way you fuck.
Boo. Yeah, I don't remember if he probably got a little more sensual once like she started riding his joint.
Yeah, he was like, oh.
It's like, oh, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
This is great.
This is wonderful. Let the girl be involved. It's really cool. Yeah.
But he's soft. He got killed by a pillow, so fuck him. Onward.
He got killed by a pillow.
Little
You're
bitch.
Right, you're right. So Balon brings up the dead sons again, and he says, so that's when Theon says, well, why would we go against the North when they can be our allies? And again, he says, we need to, if we plead fealty to them, they'll give us Winterfell. And Balon's like, what are you not getting? And he's like, what are our words? Our words. And we take what is ours. That's what it is.
You've been gone too long, boy.
He says your time with the... yeah. I don't want your life.
I don't want your life.
He says your time with the wolves have made you weak. Theon finally gets pissy and he's like, look, I didn't volunteer to go. I was given away.
Gave my ass away.
Yeah, and he says... and then Theon says to his dad, he said, did you take what was yours then when Robert was,
pushes his ass.
Yeah, when you were kneeling to him.
That pisses him off.
Yeah. And so then he says, you gave me away, your boy, your last boy. Like I was a dog you didn't want anymore, and now you curse me because I've come home.
Yep. He doesn't have a motherfucking thing to say to that.
No.
Nothing.
Nope.
Just gets a weird look on his face and rolls out.
Yeah. So that's when Yara is like, well, let me be a bitch. And she's like, you'll have our father bow down to your other family. And Theon's like, I don't have another family. And it's like, well, you do.
Yeah, you do.
But she walks out and she says, as she's leaving, she's like, make your choice and do it quickly because we're sailing with or without you. So we cut to fucking Shay.
Oh,
God.
I hate
her.
Does anyone like her?
If they do, I don't know why.
Hate her.
Yeah, she's so annoying. So she's pacing. She's like, you won't let me leave this room. Tyrion's trying to read. He tells her to keep her voice down.
All she fucking does
is complain.
Is push buttons.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I can tell you're not going to like this. Here, let me do it. Oh, you don't like me doing that? Oh, did you just tell me you don't want me to do that? Here, let me do it.
Yeah.
What a bitch.
Yeah. He tells her to
Who
keep her...
Who are you?
Exactly.
Why are you here?
Exactly. She can't be that... I mean... Tyrion's had enough sex. Like, I doubt she's the best you've ever had.
Tyrion.
Yeah.
Come on, dude. What do you like so much about her? That she's garbage?
Yeah.
That she does the opposite of everything you ask her to do? Is that what's so appealing?
Yeah.
That sounds terrible.
I don't know. It's really silly.
Can't wait till she dies.
Oh, yeah.
We got a while.
Yeah, definitely. I saw this meme that was like, get you a guy that takes your breath away. And it was
him choking her the fuck out.
choking her out.
Good. Love that scene.
I was like, yes.
Eagerly awaiting that scene.
Yeah, definitely. That one is like right up there with so many others.
So good.
So anyway, he tells her to keep her voice down. She gets even louder and says,
Shocking.
She's like, your father's, hundreds of miles away. And she's like, you won't let me leave. You won't let me do anything. I'm always here. And he's like, look, you won't be here for long. I'm trying to figure out what's going on. And he's talking about putting her in the kitchens. And she's like, I don't want to do that. And she's like, every man who's has eaten my food says that I'm better at being a whore. And so he was like, well, you'll be a kitchen wench. And she's like, I don't want to wash dishes. And he's like, I mean, come on. Like, you don't understand the danger you're in. If my sister finds out you're here, she's trying to do everything she can to hurt me. And Shay's like, so I'm the weak one. And then he's like, you don't understand like what I'm trying to say. And she's like, what? I'm too stupid. I'm the stupid foreign girl.
Yes, that's what he's saying. That
Yeah.
you're stupid and that you should go away or die on your own. Just walk off a cliff.
And that's when I wrote in my notes, dude, send this bitch home. And yeah, that's pretty much the end of the scene. He's like, look, I'm trying to figure something out for you.
Oh, yeah. Tyrion.
Yes.
Bro,
seriously.
I like you so much, but this is a serious flaw in your game here. Liking this bitch.
Yes. She, again, can't be worth it.
Come on.
No. So we cut to Cersei, Myrcella, Tommen, and Sansa having the most awkward dinner.
Definitely.
Yeah. Myrcella asks, she finally breaks the silence, and she's like, when will Sansa and Joffrey be married? And
yikes.
Cersei says when the war's over, and Myrcella talks about how she gets to have a new dress for the wedding and for the
two new dresses.
But then she says, but your gown will be ivory and it'll be beautiful because you're the bride. And Sansa doesn't say anything, and that's when Cersei's like, the princess spoke to you.
The princess spoke to you.
So Sansa says, she apologizes, and she says, I'm sure that your dress will be lovely, and that she can't wait to the day she can pledge her love to Joffrey. And that's when...
And she says it
like she says, I'm sure your dress will be lovely, and I can't wait till the day I pledge my love to Joffrey. And Cersei's like... just staring at her the whole time. Yeah. And so that's when Tommen says, is Joffrey going to kill Sansa's brother? And Cersei says...
a little rude,
yeah.
girl.
And then Cersei says, he might. Would you like that?
Would you like that?
Yeah. Of course, trying to
Asking
provoke
her.
Sansa.
What?
Well, he's asking Tommen. She's asking Tommen.
Oh, that's right.
Because Tommen says, no, I don't think I would.
Because he's a little sweetie.
Yeah, he's definitely a sweetie. Oh, R.I.P. Tommen.
Oh, that's a rough one.
That is a rough one. So he says, and then he says no, and she says, well, even if Joffrey does, Sansa will do her duty, won't you, little dove? So she's confirming, hey, Rob dies, you're still doing what you said you would do.
Such a bitch, man.
So we cut to Sansa. She's in her chamber. She's looking in her looking glass, and there's a knock at the door. She opens it. It's fucking Shay.
It's everyone's favorite character, Shay.
Yes. She says that she's the new handmaiden, and Sansa's like, I didn't know I needed one. And that's when she asks Shay that she's like, are you not from here? Because the accent, obviously, and the stupidity.
No, I am. You know what? Born and raised.
Yeah, and then so Shay says, she's just standing there, and so Sansa's like, what are you doing? And Shay's like, waiting for you to tell me what to do. And Sansa's like, that's not how this works.
Well,
I
and also
have
she's
to tell
being
you.
she's being extra bitchy because she just had that horrible dinner.
She wants to be by herself.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, she doesn't trust anyone. She just had this horrible dinner, which I'm assuming trying to process the game at foot here.
Yeah.
In her situation. And then you have this person who isn't like a normal handmaiden and won't stop looking at you.
Yeah.
So she's like,
because she's dumb as a box of rocks.
Yeah, so she's like, I don't have to tell you what to do. You should just do them. And she's like, well, what should I be doing? And so Sansa lists a bunch of stuff,
cleaning the floors, washing my linens, brushing my hair,
changing my chamber pot. So Shay goes and grabs the brush off the table, and Sansa's like, not
Yeah,
Not
it's funny.
now.
She gives her all these shitty. She's like, "What should I do? Oh, a whole bunch of shitty stuff and brush my hair." Well, here, let me brush your hair.
Mm-hmm.
No, don't grab the easiest chore and try to do it.
Yeah.
Well, I really don't want to clean your shit pot.
Yeah.
So let me brush your hair.
Well, she says the shit pot's
Shitter's full.
shitter's full.
Shitter's full.
She says that it's clean or that it doesn't have anything in it. It's empty. That's what she says. It's empty.
There's no shit in there, milady.
I don't see any shit.
Zero shit.
And so Sansa says, "Fine, clean the table," and she goes over and starts clearing it, but immediately starts eating all the food off the table.
She grabs like there's like
A grape.
there's like a plate of fruit and she like grabs one of them and like throws it in her mouth and as she picks it up.
Yeah.
Shit, all casual like.
Yeah, and so it's like oh shit, I can't remember. Oh, I can't remember what show it is where he just starts eating stuff off of doesn't matter. Oh God, it's gonna bother me though. But he starts eating stuff off the plate, and he's like, "Did you want this?" I think it's on that 70s show. I think it's when he's in the hotel. But anyway, she says, "Have you ever been a handmaiden before?" And she says, "Yeah, to Lady Zorf."
Zorf
Or something.
That sounds like a not made up name.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was a handmaiden for Johnny Table.
Johnny.
Back in the day,
Table.
old Johnny Table.
Yeah. So Sansa says, "In this city, handmaidens wait on ladies, not the other way around. I don't have time to answer 1,000 questions and tell you how to do your job." And so Shay says, "Do you want me to leave?" And Sansa just stares at her for quite a few seconds.
And it seems like she's like, well, this girl doesn't seem like necessarily like a bitch.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess it would be nice to have someone to talk to that's not a bitch.
Yeah. So she says, "Just brush my hair."
Just brush my hair.
Yeah. So then we cut to Tyrion. He's getting a vial of stuff from the Maester Pycelle. And he says, "Oh, thank God, I haven't had a proper shit in 6 days."
Yeah, that's rough for your boy.
Definitely. And Pycelle, well, it's a lie, but yeah. Pycelle says stress of powers have that effect. He says take 2 drops with water daily and things should be good. And Tyrion thanks him, and then he asks if he could trust him. And he says the crown must forge new alliances, and most often those alliances need to be sealed with matrimony. And he says, "I'm telling the council, but not the queen, because she's, a little
specifically
unhinged.
Don't tell the queen.
The queen." He tells
Queen Regent.
He tells Pycelle, "I'm brokering an alliance with Dorne. I'm gonna, have Myrcella in
married.
Yeah, to the Dornish prince when she comes of age, and that she'll go to Dorne now until that happens." And he ends the conversation saying, "Remember, the queen must not know," which then we see him talking to Varys.
Yeah, the way they shoot it is kind of like you see they're chit-chatting, and then you see Tyrion, and he comes to a part of the conversation that could kind of be open, and then you turn, and he's talking to someone else. He's talking to Varys.
Yeah, another one of those like transitions
awesome
that I
shot.
really
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
And then he's telling Varys the same thing, but
well, he tells him that he's marrying Myrcella to Theon Greyjoy.
Theon Greyjoy.
And so Varys is like, that's a little weird, and he says, "Well, he grew up as a ward. He lived with the Starks. We can have him as our ally, and then turn him against him, and he'll eat the Starks from within, the Northern Army from within." So this all works. So then again, he says,
kind of shot.
"Remember, the queen must not know, or tell no one." And it's Littlefinger, and Tyrion tells him that he's wedding Myrcella to Robin Arryn of the Vale.
Yeah.
And Littlefinger's like, "Well, that's weird because she just tried to kill you, Lady Lysa." And he's like, "Well, she doesn't like me, but perhaps, giving her a princess will get rid of that grudge." And he says, "I'm sending you to broker the agreement." And Littlefinger's like, "Well, I could sing this song to Lysa, but if I wanted to, but what's in it for me?" And so he's, Tyrion tells him, like honor and da-da-da-da. And he's like, "And Harrenhal." And Littlefinger's like, "Yeah, that place is cursed." And Tyrion says, "By all means, tear it down and rebuild. You'll have enough money. I plan to make you the Lord of the Weatherlands." And Littlefinger's like, "Well, Janos Slynt was Lord of Harrenhal until you snatched that away." And Tyrion's like, "I didn't need Janos. I need you."
Yeah.
So
that dude's a punk ass.
Yeah, so
I mean,
he's-
so are you, but I still need you.
yeah. So then Tyrion goes, settled then? Good.
Alrighty.
So then we cut to Loras and Renly. They're making out on Renly's bed.
Hot gay sex
Hot-
scene.
Sort of sex scene. There's no sex.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hot gay hookup scene.
Yeah. Loras, he pulls his...
And everything's going well.
Yeah, and then he pulls
It's
his...
looking very cute / hot.
Yeah.
And then Loras gets the shirt open, and you see the giant bruise from Brienne fucking him up.
Yeah, so Renly kind of like...
Which reminds both of them of the situation.
Yeah, and Renly is...
Poking him.
He's pulling a Foreman and not picking up on the fact that Loras is not happy with that situation. He kind of like is picking, and he says...
Well, he like kisses... He's like, oh,
yeah, and
that's
he says
rough.
that must hurt.
And then he like kisses right on it.
Yeah, and so Loras kind of pulls away. Like it seems like at first it like kind of hurts him, but then like Renly tries to kiss him, and he's just like, no, I don't, like, get out of my face. And he's like,
he's mad because he's reminded that that girl whipped his ass, and then
finally
he goes,
he goes, a member of the Kingsguard, and he's like, is it as if I wasn't humiliated enough?
For sure.
And Renly's like, you know, she's like, she's good, we could use her. And then he's like, oh, you're jealous. And he goes, and then Loras is like, oh, of Brienne the beauty.
Somebody else is PB and jealous.
Yeah, and so Renly says, I'll make it up to you, and tries to take off Loras's pants, but Loras is like, no, not tonight. And he says, look, you can't charm the army. You can't lead the army on charm alone. Everyone's starting to kind of snicker behind your back. Renly's like, I don't give a shit. And he's like, look, my sister is still a virgin after 2 weeks of marriage. People are starting to talk. And Renly's like, Marjorie's a virgin?
Yeah, which I don't believe.
No, nobody does.
And who knows that? Like, is she putting that information out there, or is everyone just?
Well.
Or is there some big announcement that goes out after it happens, or do they like release doves or something?
No, I think it's because like they're not. There's clearly like.
Oh, they're not like snickering and like there's no. It's not like Michael and Holly.
No.
Like where there's too much. They're not like PDA.
No, not at all.
So everyone's like,
everyone's like, this is weird. And there's always been
quite seem like they're fucking.
In Renly, it's not. It's not out in the open, but Renly, it's kind of been a question of his sexuality for a while. Whereas Loras, not quite. You know, he's younger and
got it.
No one really knows his situation. So we see Marjorie enter a little while later, obviously, because by this point Renly is a little drunk.
Yeah.
He says, I should warn you, I've had quite a bit of wine. And he tells her she's beautiful and that her gown is lovely. And she's like, oh, yeah, I can't really tell if I like it like this or, not at all. And just pops it right off.
Pops that joint right off.
Another great set of boobies.
Beautiful tits.
Yeah.
Here we go again.
Yeah.
Always.
Yep.
With the slamming female bodies on GOT.
Yeah, I mean, they do pick good ones.
They get some winners.
Yeah. So Renly, she starts kissing Renly. He's just kind of talking because he's like really uncomfortable. He keeps his eyes open.
Very uncomfortable.
Yeah, he's like staring past her while they're kissing. It's like, it's really awkward.
But you know what I was thinking? I was like, for a gay dude to have to hook up with the opposite sex,
jeez,
it's better because at least females are smooth. And
that's true.
For like a couple of like gay women.
Yeah.
And then there's like this dude puts his hot balls in her face and it's all fucked up looking. It's like, it's definitely not as nice.
Yeah, I mean, I would assume that it's easier. No, I'm not obviously a gay man.
Clearly you don't want either of the, it doesn't matter. I'm just saying.
But I mean, I would think it would be easier to be attracted to a woman than it would be being a lesbian, a lesbian, not bisexual, but a lesbian who's like, I don't like dicks.
Yeah, clearly we're just a couple of heterosexuals here talking a bunch of shit, but it just seems like the gay guys would get the better.
I'm just saying, girls are hot.
Girls are definitely have hotter bodies.
And
there's
gay
some hot
guys,
dude bodies out there, but
but
a regular, come on, that's hot garbage. That's just a mess.
Yeah,
down there.
it. I mean, I get it. Is he?
But obviously he's and also he's like. Not only is he gay, so he's like, I'm
but
not
there's
interested.
A lot of pressure.
But also there's pressure. But then also I think he like really likes Loras.
Oh,
like that's like his dude. It's not even like, oh, I just don't want you. It's like, no, I have a person.
Yeah,
already.
and
like, this
it
is
would
my
be one
person.
thing that, like, if Loras probably wasn't, I don't know, this girl's brother.
Yeah.
So it's like...
Also, she's really willing, and I realize she knows her duty, and you got to get shit done. But she's really willing to, like, get, like, a threesome going with her brother.
Well, in
guess
the
not so much a
books,
threesome.
there's
I guess
some question on...
Oh, that's kind of like a little...
Well, there's some question on her and Loras in general, but also, like, has she joined them? Yeah, there's this whole question in the book about her virginity and stuff, and whether or not she's been with other people.
No virgins giving those fuck me eyes.
There's
like she stays with fuck me eyes.
Yeah,
she's like just always has this.
Yeah. There's a very interesting plot line in the book that they don't even touch on in the show, where like Cersei tries to provoke and see like, oh, is she gonna get... I'm pretty sure it's Cersei.
Like to hook up with her?
No. She tries to get men to sleep with Marjorie so she can prove that she is a whore, so that Joffrey doesn't marry her.
Got it.
Yeah. I'm a little fuzzy on the details on that, but yeah, definitely.
Been a minute.
Definitely. But anyway, so she says, so she says he can't get it up. And so she's like, let me try. And that still doesn't work. And so finally she says, do you want my brother to come in?
And he's like,
he'll help you get started. He wouldn't mind. And she says, if you want, I can turn over and you can pretend I'm him.
I'm like, yeah, I doubt that's going to work.
Yeah. And so Renly's like,
your brother's a string bean.
Yeah. And so Renly's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And she's like, there's no need to play games for us to play games. You need to save your lives for court. You'll need lots of them. And she says, your enemies aren't happy about us. They want to tear us apart. The best way to stop them is to put a baby in my belly. And she says, we can try again later. You decide how you want to do it with me and Loras. However else you want to do it.
Can Loras get you like right there, and then last second we can just
pop it in.
Throw it right in there.
Just pull a Theon.
Like, I'll just sit on Loras's head. He'll blow you until it's go time, baby.
And then we're
gonna make this thing work.
Yeah.
However you need it.
And so she says, whatever you need to do, you're the king. And that's when we cut to Cersei. She's found out what Tyrion... Well, she's found out Tyrion has a plan. And she, of course, begins the scene by...
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was just going to say, we shoot to Tyrion finding out who...
Well, we shoot to
Cersei
saying, you're a monster. And she says, Myrcella is my only daughter, and you think I'll sell her like a common whore. And she says, and then that's when we find out what the plan is. And who told. She says, I will not let you ship her off to Dorne like I was shipped off to Robert Baratheon. And Tyrion says, she says she'll be a hostage. And Tyrion's like, no, she'll be a guest. And that's when, which both of us snickered at, she says, you think a piece of paper father gave you will keep you safe. And I'm sure she's like, where is that paper? I need to burn it or rip it up.
I need this.
Yeah.
But, she's already ripped it and burned it by now.
Absolutely. And Tyrion says, look, it's done. I can't stop it. And she says, and his point was, she's like, well, you're going to send her off and she's going to, be held hostage and we'll never know what happens to her. And he's like, why do you, like, she's safe in Dorne. What do you think will happen if the city falls?
But Cersei hates everyone that's not her. So.
Yeah. So he says, if the city falls, they'll mount her pretty little head on a spike right next to yours. And that's when Cersei gets pissed.
She shoves him.
Yeah. And she tells him to get out. Get out.
Get out of my room!
So we cut to Theon. He's writing a letter to Robb. He's telling him what Balon's
he's
said
like,
to
hey,
do.
Little heads up.
He reads it, looks at it, and but of course. And of course, he decides to burn it instead of sending it.
Yeah, he's like thinking about it.
Yeah, so we cut to Theon outside. They're all on the shore. He's near the water, and it's his uncle, but he's saying, Theon of House Greyjoy, you on this day concrete your faith in the drowned god.
That is his uncle?
Yes.
I just thought it was like their version of like a Meister or a Maester or something.
But I mean, that's what he is.
Oh, that is what he
is.
Hippie voodoo.
Yeah, I don't remember if they say it in the show, but in the books, it's his uncle. And he's described as having like seaweed in his hair.
Well, that's like kind of what that dude was looking like.
Yeah. So,
that guy looked like he lives in the water under a bridge in San Francisco.
In the book, he lives in a hut beside the water, or like in a sheltered thing beside the water. So yes, down by the river.
You have plenty of time to live in a van down by the river when you're living in a van down by the river.
So Theon says that he would, and so he kneels, and that's, of course, when Theon certifies that he's a punk bitch. And
yep. Sure enough.
Yeah, the guy who I'm going to call his uncle, because that's who it is.
Unk.
He's in. I think they call him. Well, in the book, it's spelled with a K. It's uncle with a K, so it looks like Kunkel. Kunkel, yeah. But he says, "You're a servant to be born again from the sea, like you were." He's talking to the god, and he says, "Bless him with salt, bless him with stone, and bless him with steel." And that's when Theon says, "What is dead may never die." The uncle repeats it and says, "What is dead may never die, but rises again harder and stronger." That's what she said. And then
nope, that's my joke.
That's my joke. It took all I could not to laugh at that part. So just a little side note, again, just throwing interesting things in with the book, but this is considered the drowning, where you put your faith in the drowned god. So in the book, they physically drown you.
Yeah, well, they do that to his uncle later on.
Yeah, because he becomes the king.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, like, I forgot that happened. So, never mind. You all know that. Sorry, guys. Just trying to teach you something. Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll go on.
But they don't do that because Theon's a little bitch. They're like, I don't think we should drown him.
No.
I don't think he'll come back.
Yeah.
Wolves don't swim.
No, they sink. Tyrion, so we cut to Tyrion. He's holding a book, not reading it. And
maybe wolves swim. I have no idea.
Yeah. I don't know. Anyway, Littlefinger walks in and he says, "I don't appreciate being made a fool of, dwarf." And he says, Myrcella can't wed Robin if she's promised to the Dornish prince. And
that shows that who's been talking.
Yeah, and so Tyrion's like, "Sorry, I needed to figure some stuff out." And he says, Littlefinger says, "Well, leave me out of your next plot." And
he's pissed.
Yeah, and Tyrion,
because he's normally the one.
Well, he's been played. He was told he had Harrenhal and was told he was going to be running, lands and stuff.
Which is like what he's always wanted.
And Tyrion says, "Well, none of that is actually happening. Sorry, I had to lie to you about it."
On top of that, he's a fucking shyster.
Yeah.
So when a shyster
is fooled,
he is hot.
So Tyrion says, "Well, that's too bad. I was going to use you as a main centerpiece in my next plot." And he said, "I'd like to see my brother released, and that's where you come in." And Littlefinger's like, "Rob's not going to release him." And he's like, "Yeah, Rob might not, but Catelyn may." And so that's when Bronn enters, and he says, "We found him. He has company." I almost hate to interrupt. And of course, you know who he's talking about, but it's not. Littlefinger doesn't know who he's talking about yet. And Tyrion goes, "No, you don't." And Bronn's like, "No, you're right, I don't." So then we cut to a door being kicked in by Bronn. The Maester Pycelle's in bed with whore. And
that's all he does is go, ooh, and smash chicks.
Yeah. So, that Bronn pulls him out of the bed, sorry. Had to yawn. Tyrion enters and he says, "You disappoint me, Grand Maester." And the Maester says, "I swear it wasn't me." And he's like, bumbling around. And he goes, "No, Varys, it was him, the spider." And Tyrion's like, "No, it wasn't. I told him that I was marrying my Myrcella to the Greyjoys." And he's like, "It was Littlefinger." And he's like, "No, I told him I was marrying him to Robin, or marrying Myrcella to Robin." And so then Tyrion says, "I told no one I was offering her to the Dornish. No one but you." And then he goes, "Cut off his manhood and feed him to the goats." And that's when the Shagga says, there are no goats. And Tyrion's like, then make do.
Yeah, feed it to fucking something.
Yeah. And so
you eat it.
Yeah. And Pycelle says, all I did for House Lannister. He said, I've always been your father's servant since the days of the Man King. And that's when Tyrion says, I don't like his beard. And so
Bronn just like grabs the bottom of it, yanks it, and like cuts just like kind of the bottom off with his knife. Yeah.
And he says, that's when Tyrion says, how many hands have you betrayed, Pycelle? And that's when Pycelle says that Aaron knew the truth about the queen, and he planned to act and tell Robert. And Tyrion's like, oh, so you poisoned him? And he's like, no. And he's like, oh, well, but you at least made sure he died.
Yeah.
And that's when he says, you know what? Throw him in one of the black cells. And so they take out the maester. The whore is still in the corner crouching. And Tyrion leaves a coin for her. And
he's like, for your troubles.
Yeah. And so he goes to walk away and then sees Pycelle again.
And he's out there losing it. And it's like, oh, I thought you were all crippled and shit. You sure are being feisty right now. So he looks at him and then he's like... Yeah, and then he puts another coin down for the girl.
Yeah. So we cut to Varys and Tyrion. Varys says, you'll be pleased to know our mutual friend is doing well in Lady Sansa's service. And he asks about the maester. He says that was well played, Lord Hand. And then Varys says, shall I be worried? The council has a reputation. He says, shall I be worried? The council gets smaller and smaller every day. And Tyrion says the council has a reputation of not working well with hands in this area.
Yeah, and I'm not playing that shit.
Yeah, and that's when Varys puts a riddle to Tyrion, which is the king. There are three men: the king, the priest, and a rich man. And he says, a king, a priest, a rich man, and a sellsword are in a room. These three men tell the sellsword to kill the other two, who lives and who dies. And they discuss that it all depends on the man with the sword. And Varys says, and yet he is no one, which is an interesting way of putting. And he says, he's neither crown nor gold nor favor of the gods, only a piece of pointed steel.
Yeah, and he says it so.
And that's when Tyrion says, well, the steel of power is the power of life and death. And Varys says, just so, yet if the swordsman who rules us in truth, why do we pretend our kings hold all the power? Why should a strong man with a sword ever obey a child king like Joffrey or a wine-sodden oaf like his father?
Yeah.
And that's when Tyrion says, well, because child kings and drunken oafs can call other strong men with other swords. And the other swordsmen have the true power. And that's when Varys says, do they? Whence come their swords? Why do they obey? And then Varys says, some say knowledge is power. Some say power come from the gods. Others say it derives from the law. And so then he says, yet that day on the steps of the Baelor Sept, our high septon and the lawful queen regent, and you, your ever so knowledgeable servant, were as powerless as any cobbler or copper in the crowd. Who truly killed Eddard Stark, do you think? Joffrey, who gave the command? Sir Ilyn Payne, who swung the sword? Or another? And that's when Varys is like, yeah, I don't like riddles.
Or Tyrion says that.
Tyrion says that. And Varys says, power resides where man believes it resides. And he says, a very small man can cast a very large shadow. And there's a line in the book after Jon and Tyrion have their interaction at Winterfell in the second episode.
Yeah.
After they have their exchanges where he's like, I have a soft spot for bastards, broken things, that kind of shit. In the book, it's from Jon's point of view, and Jon has a line. There's a line in it that says, "And when Tyrion walked away, he stood as tall as any man," or something like that, or his small shadow stood as tall as a king. It's just there's a play on words about his shadow there, so it's interesting that they threw it in here too. A very small man can cast a very large shadow. Anyway. So we cut to everyone sleeping, the men going north, the boys going north,
yeah,
and then to the Night's Watch. Everyone's sleeping but Arya. She's up playing with needle.
She's
Not playing.
Like,
she's like sharpening and
wiping it down and sharpening it.
Yeah. A door opens and Euron enters. He tells her that she should be sleeping because tomorrow's a long march. They have 30 miles or so. She says she can't sleep, and he goes to hand her some wine, but she's like, yeah, I don't really like the taste. And he's like, yeah, you don't really drink it for the flavor, to be honest.
Yeah.
And so she says, how do you sleep? And he says, same as most men, I think. And she's like, well, you've seen things, horrible things. And he's like, I've seen some pretty things too, not nearly as many. So she says, how do you sleep when you've seen those things in your head? And he said, he looks at her and he's like, you didn't see that. I made sure of it. Talking about Ned.
Yeah.
And she's like, I close my eyes and I see them up there. All of them standing there. Joffrey, the queen, my sister. And then Euron tells her that they have something in common. And he says, I must have been a couple years older than you when I saw my brother stabbed through the heart right on the doorstep of our place. He said this guy named Willem, he had done it. He ran off before anyone could spit, and that Euron had just stood there watching his brother die. And he's like, here's the funny part. Now I can't picture my brother's face anymore, but Willem, he was a nice-looking boy. He had white teeth, blue eyes, a dimpled chin, you know, the things that all girls like. He's like, I would think about him when I was working, when I was drinking, when I was having a shit. And he said, it got to the point where I would say his name every night before I went to bed, a prayer almost. Willem, Willem, Willem. And then he says, one day, Willem came riding back into town.
More of a mantra.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure, I don't think they had the word mantra then, but yeah. Yeah, you're right. And so then he says, one day Willem came riding back into town. He said, I buried an axe so deep in his skull that they had to bury it with him.
There you go, bitch.
And then he said, Willem's horse got me to the wall, and I've been wearing black ever since.
Cool story.
Yeah. And the origin of the prayer. And so then we get we get some blasts of horns. And that's when Euron is like, oh, we need to get up and it's time to go. And so he tells Gendry and Arya, he says, keep out of sight. She's like, I'm not afraid. And he's like, look, if things go bad, you run and go back north. Go home.
Haul ass.
You need to go. Of all people, you two need to run. And so then he tells everyone else, he goes, get up. These men here want to fuck your corpses.
At first, I thought he said that they want to fuck you up. These guys out here want to fuck you up. But yeah, fuck your corpses.
Fuck your corpses.
Which is also very good.
Yeah. So the blonde boy is like one of the last to get up. Shaggy. And definitely Shaggy. And he finds Gendry's helmet. Grabs it. So we see kind of everyone running and fleeing and doing what they need to do and hiding. And somebody's got a what's it called? A torch.
Yeah.
And it falls on the ground and starts a fire near the cart where the three guys are locked in there that had been pulled from the black cells.
So they're freaking out.
Yeah, and so they're like, save us, come help us. And Jaqen. And
my boy Jaqen's about to burn up.
Yeah. So then we cut to the Gold Cloaks coming up to Euron and asking where the bastard crow is. And
oh no, it's not Gold Cloaks. It's Lannister.
Oh, Lannister men. Sorry. Yeah. He comes up and says, "Where's the bastard crow?" And that's when Euron says, "There's a bunch of bastards here. Which one are you talking about?" And he says, he's like, "You know which one?" And he said,
"You know what it is, bitch.
You know what it is." He says, "Drop your weapons." And he says, "In the name of the king." And Euron says, "Which king is that? I hear there's multiple ones." And that's when he says, drop your weapons in the name of King Joffrey.
Yeah, the most bitch-made one. Yeah. You know which one I'm talking about.
And Euron's like, nah, I'm not doing that. Not going to do that. So then he gets hit with a crossbow.
And because he's the fucking man.
Yeah, he's like, I hate crossbows. They take so long to load.
And as this dude's reloading his crossbow, he cuts his fucking throat wide open.
Yeah.
And then proceeds to fuck a bunch of other dudes up.
Yeah, but then eventually he's ganged up on. He gets stabbed with a pretty long, I don't know what they're called, but
spear.
Spear. Spear. And then finally, Lannister dude on the horse takes his sword
and he bangs him like
down the spinal cord.
Like in Troy when Brad Pitt gets up from screwing those 2 chicks in his tent, and he gets up to fuck that huge, like, 7-foot tall dude up.
Yeah.
And just throws his knife right down on his shoulder. That's kind of what they do to him.
Yeah.
Just, like, kind of shoves it down his back.
Yeah.
Yikes.
So, yeah. So, obviously Aaron's dead now. And that's when Gentry's like, yeah, I'd rather die fighting than hide and be taken. So he takes off running, leading the charge. They all, a bunch of people come out, a bunch of the guys come out and start fighting. Arya starts running, and then she runs past the cart where the men are, the lots men where Jaqen is,
and throws one of them or gives him
well,
an axe.
they say come over. He says, "Come over here, boy, help us."
Or gives him a hatchet.
Yeah, and so she grabs an axe, she gives it to him, and then she runs off. Hot Pie, at the time he's hidden. He just stays behind where they were all hiding at first. He's just kind of like, I'm gonna stay back here.
He's soft.
Yeah, we see Arya run like around the bush
and get clotheslined.
She gets clotheslined. And the guy that takes her down, he says, "That's a fine little blade. Maybe I'll pick my teeth with it." And he says, "Round up." The Lannister guy says, "Round up any survivors. We'll take them with us to Harrenhal." And as they're walking back, that's when we see the blonde boy. He's got an arrow through his leg. He starts asking for help, and what's his? I can't remember his name, but he comes over and says, "Can you walk?" And the blonde boy says, "No, you've got to carry me."
You gotta carry me. He's like, "Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do."
Yeah. And so he gets stabbed through the throat with needle.
Well, he's like, "Here, give me your hand."
He's like, "Okay, yeah."
God, it's such a fucking raw way to die.
Absolutely.
He just throws this, and all she does is sharpen that thing, so you know it just cuts through his shit like butter.
Yeah, exactly. And it's Castle Forge steel. Yeah.
Eek.
Yeah. So then he walks back and is like, "Carry him," he says. Oh. And so then the Lannister guy turns to the people they've captured, and he says, "We're looking for a bastard named Gendry. Give him up or we'll start taking eyeballs." And no one says anything. Arya starts...
Everybody's kind of looking his way, though.
Yeah, and Gendry's starting to look like he's
oh,
about to say something.
Fuck.
Yeah, and so finally she says,
"You want him?
You've already got him." And she looks over at the blonde boy that home dude just stabbed, and he's like, and we see the helmet laying right above him.
And that's what they had to identify him by.
And so she says he loved that helmet. And that's where it ends.
He loved that helmet before you shoved my sword through his throat.
Yeah, before you took him out.
Loved it.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's it.
Woo!
Woo!
Another one down. We did two in a row.
Mm-hmm.
Shocking.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll do one tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. We'll see. It's Polliver, by the way. That's the guy who said, "Maybe I'll pick my teeth with it," and then killed the guy. Yeah. I was like, I knew it was a P, but I knew it started with a P, though.
No, it started with a P, though.
Yeah, I couldn't remember that.
Pamsonite.
I was so close. Yeah, so that was episode 3?
Yep, episode 3.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, either way, this weekend's supposed to be really shitty weather, so I think Saturday we could potentially knock a couple out. So
yeah, that's what she said.
We're getting through season 2.
Yeah. Well, and it'll start going faster because the episodes they're so quick now because it's like, oh, all of that happened in this episode?
I think this one also didn't have a lot of action. I think the next one's probably going to bang us.
Yep.
Give us some good shit.
Yeah.
Okay. Good one.
Yeah. So, as always, Throne Thugs Podcast, Twitter, Instagram.
And then just thronethugs@gmail.com for email if you want to holler at Cheerboy or Cheergirl.
Yeah. If you are interested in true crime, check out our other show, Murd Up. And again on Instagram, Twitter, Murd Up Podcast, and that is murduppodcast@gmail.com if you have some suggestions or anything for that too. So check that out. And also conversate with me because I like to talk about Game of Thrones.
And I'm sure that more and more of you will be getting fired up over this shit because it is closing.
We're just getting closer.
And dude, time goes quick. Like I gotta wait sometimes 3, 4, 5 months for a good UFC pay-per-view to watch. So like, and you think it's forever, and then it just shows up. So like, Yeah, this shit's going to be here in no time.
Yeah,
That's
definitely.
why I really want to be knocking these episodes out. So we'll do our best.
Yeah.
But I hope you're listening, and I hope you enjoy it. And yeah,
We'll talk to you next time.
see you at the next one.
Bye.
Peace.